genre.
Welcome to the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who, The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review, discuss, and recap every episode of Doctor Who, one Doctor at a time. I'm Nick Jimenez.
I'm Cassandra Fredrickson.
And I'm Scott Corelli, and joining us today, which is going to be hopefully a thing that we do, especially with the new Who episodes, we want to have guests on, because we've all talked about these multiple times, so it's nice to have a fresh voice. Geek by Night staff writer, Billy McCartney, welcome.
What's up? Oh, God, that was my introduction to the world. I regret it already.
Oh, that's already happened.
Hello.
And today we will be discussing the Ninth Doctor story, The End of the World, written by Russell T. Davies, and it was actually the second broadcasted Ninth Doctor episode, originally airing in the 2nd of April 2005. And was viewed by 7.97 million viewers in the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Does Nick always... Never mind.
What's that?
I love that Nick introduces the show like it's an NPR segment. It's my favorite thing.
That's his vibe. That's his vibe. Yeah. That's Nick's vibe. He's real cool and laid back, and
then I'm not.
But yeah, so a little bit of background on The End of the World that I wanted to talk about. One, it's directed by Euros Lyn, who is,
the best.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really great Doctor Who director. He's directed tons of stuff for Doctor Who, including my favorite episode of Doctor Who ever, Silence in the Library. Which is, so great. So he's one of my favorites, definitely. He's also directed some clunkers. But when you're a TV director, you don't get to choose the stories that you're directing most of the time. I really like Euros Lyn. I think he, when it's a good story, I think he adds a lot.
Has he directed any 12th Doctor episodes yet?
I don't think
yes.
Oh, he has. Okay.
Totally. Sorry, now I'm looking it up, but I know it was like a big thing when he came back.
Oh, good.
Hey, Euros, let's look your name up on the IMDb's here.
He's also directed some Sherlock, some Black Mirror, some Broadchurch. So he's gotten around. He's even directed some Daredevil.
What?
For Netflix. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, I lied. He never did. He did The Beast Below was his last episode.
Oh, which we're also covering in this in this season of the show. So that's good.
Speaking of clunkers.
What?
I love
that. That's not true. Boo.
We're fighting.
That'll be an interesting discussion.
Before we get into the episode, can we? There's a little bit of Doctor Who related news. Speaking of The Beast Below, Doctor Who alumni Karen Gillan is going to be in that new Jumanji movie starring The Rock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's fun. Oh, cool. So the big thing that I wanted to talk about here, because this is the perfect time to talk about it, because we're synced up with 2 seasons of the Russell T. Davies era, and something that throughout the Russell T. Davies era I noticed and became sort of obsessed with was the idea that Russell T. Davies, not only were his episodes somewhat structurally repetitive, not in a bad way, but just like you kind of knew what you were going to get in a Russell T. Davies story. But not only that, but as a showrunner, he also impeccably structured his seasons. Mm-hmm. So the first episode would always introduce either a doctor or a companion in modern day Britain. And then the second episode would take them to the far future. And then the third episode would take them to the past. And throughout the season, there was a very specific structure to how the season operated. And as we'll see, we had Rose last season, and then in the second season we had Christmas Invasion, and then the very next episodes were now End of the World, and then next week we'll be talking about New Earth. And
Love New Earth.
Yeah, and then we go into the past because we do the Unquiet Dead, and then Tooth and Claw, right? Is
also,
the one
also Yaroslin is Tooth and Claw.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I just think that that's really interesting it's like Russell T Davies has sort of like a cheat sheet of like, this is how I want everyone to experience Doctor Who who's watching it. And so this is the type of story I want here. Now write a story that fits what I want here, which I think is interesting. But
yeah.
I don't know.
When I try to
I like that as a thing. I don't know.
When I try to imagine Russell T Davies, I just imagine David Tennant as Russell T Davies in that skit that they made.
Oh yeah, that was pretty
He's
great.
just chain smoking in every scene. Yeah. He can't stop.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So great. So before we start talking about End of the World, Billy, what's your background with Doctor Who? When did you start watching it? And what do you love about Doctor Who?
Everything. I'm actually really excited to do this episode because I love this episode so much. I mean, like, this is definitely not Eccleston's best episode, but it is my favorite Eccleston episode. And a lot's that. So basically, when I was, I guess, 14, 15, I went on a school trip. It was like a theater school trip or whatnot. And I was with a bunch of the older dudes in my hotel room, and they were channel flipping while we were building Dungeons and Dragons characters. We were really cool.
That's awesome.
And someone found Doctor Who on, I assume, the Sci-Fi Channel, because that's where it was at the time. And it was the beginning of the Satan Pit. It was the Impossible. What is that one up called? The Impossible Planet?
Yeah, Impossible Planet in the Satan Pit.
So the Impossible Planet was the episode that was on, and we watched it, and just unrelated, to this day, the Impossible Planet in the Satan Pit is my favorite Doctor Who episode.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that is because it was the first one I saw. And to say that's my favorite episode wasn't really weird when there were only like 3 seasons. Now that there's 9, it's a weird choice.
I have a soft spot for that episode.
I love that episode.
Because Satan, like the mythology of Satan in movies and stuff, always really fascinates me.
I love that you guys love that so much because I hate that story.
I know you hate that story so much.
Yeah. I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being.
So incorrect.
It is the antithesis of everything I want Doctor Who to be. I hate that story.
And for me, it's like everything needs to be more like that because that's where I jumped on. But I only saw the Impossible Planet. That was the big. I only saw part 1. And while I was watching it, the people, like one of the guys in the room was like behind, and he was like, "Oh, I guess he's regenerated." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, he can like change forms. He used to be this kind of like tough guy Brit with a short haircut looking dude." And I was like, "Okay."
I love that anyone would call Christopher Eccleston.
Like, no, he's such a doof. He's such a doof. I love it. So I went home.
Like a puppy.
Yeah,
he's just like a doofy dog with big ears that's like constantly tripping over himself.
Like, I guess compared to David Tennant, he's like kind of. I mean,
because David Tennant's like the biggest nerd.
Yeah, I guess. But, although I was always more intimidated by David Tennant when he got angry than I ever was by Christopher Eccleston.
I guess. I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, we'll talk more about Christopher Eccleston in the episode because I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. But long story short, went home, told my mom about this show I saw on this school trip.
Tony
ended up finding it. Yeah, it's my mom. We found it on Sci-Fi, and it was, I think, part 1 of the Rose's Exit. I think it. And so I think I saw a little bit of it, realized the episode was important, and stopped. And then they announced that PBS, like Public Broadcasting, was going to show Doctor Who, starting with season 1. And that's how I found it. So then season 1 started on PBS, and I never missed an episode. And that lined up with, by the time PBS got done with season 2, it was right about time for season 3 to start, now actually airing on BBC America.
Wow. So you started, I mean, as far as like new Who fans are concerned, I mean, you started pretty early. That's pretty early.
Yeah. And I've realized something about starting early. Like I was listening to your episode about Rose, and you asked the question, so how many times do you guys think you've seen this episode? And I was like, okay, that's a reasonable question. And then Nick was like, this is maybe my second. And I was like, what? And then Cassandra said probably five times. And I was like, that's closer. And then Scott, you said, I've seen this at least a dozen times.
Yeah.
I was like, that's correct. That's the right answer. I watched this episode last night without looking at the screen. I was just writing notes the whole time, and I was embarrassed by how well I knew it.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite like non-finale or premiere episode of the Russell T Davies era.
I love this episode.
It's really good. I mean, my favorite Russell T Davies era is and always will be Parting of the Ways.
Yeah.
But this, as just a standalone episode, is everything you want Doctor Who to be, especially from the Russell T Davies era.
Oh, real quick, before we get into the episode, just to round out the story, because I watched it in this way, I did not see the Satan Pit, part 2 of that episode, until a year after I had seen part 1, because I had no way to find it. There was no, like...
It's a hell of a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Yeah. So I finally got there, and then I bought all the DVDs when they were like $100 a piece, which is a nightmare. But I still keep that up, even though they're way cheaper now. But I think I have every single box set somewhere.
So does this guy, pointing at Scott.
Yeah. That's also when I bought them, was when they were each like $95.
Well, I had to be able to show them to everyone I cared about.
100% yes. That's why I own anything. It's not because of me. It's not for me. It's so that I can show them to other people.
So
I realized not too long ago I was missing my season 2 DVD, and I like found all of my high school friends on Facebook, and I was like, do any of you have this? I know it's been like 6 years, and one of them was like, yeah, I have it. I got it back.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
The other weird thing about my Doctor Who experience was because I told my mom about this show, and because it's British and my mom is a huge Anglophile, Doctor Who became a family thing. To the point where now it's fine because I live not in Texas. But when the show aired, we had to all 4 watch it together. Like my mom, my dad, my sister, and me. Like every single episode, every week, it was like a family event. So they've all seen everything. And I share Doctor Who news with my mom on Facebook. I'm like, hey, look, this is Pearl Mackie. She's going to be in season 10.
I have seen the photographs of your father cosplaying as the Doctor.
Yeah, my dad does Peter Capaldi because he's old.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, let's talk about the end of the world. So right off the bat, I love how this story opens because it transitions from the recap of Rose, and it just transitions directly into the episode without. If you didn't know better, it almost feels like the episode hasn't started yet. And then you're like, oh, this part of the recap is taking a long time. And you realize that this is the episode now. Cause the recap ends with her running into the TARDIS, and the episode starts with her running into the TARDIS from the inside, which is really great. And I just love Nine's desperation for approval because he's so out of practice having a companion. Because from his perspective, now we're 10 years on and we've learned everything we need to learn about that time period that is missing between the 8th Doctor TV movie and Eccleston. We've learned about that entire history of time. And so we know that it's been probably 600 to 800 years, something like that, between the last time he had a companion and now. And so he just is really out of practice, which I think is largely what this episode is about. It's both about a companion learning how to be a companion and the Doctor remembering how to be the Doctor with a companion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I wrote down in here, the first thing I wrote down was her name is Jabe with a B, because in all my notes I wrote a D for Jade. But I wrote so many iconic things start in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the psychic paper, the great references, the weird Eccleston dance. That's a little reaction.
Oh yeah, that Eccleston dance that is just his biggest gif.
Yeah.
It's,
it's
everywhere.
What else did I talk about? That was this, we get the first little bit of Russell's atheism in this episode, which bleeds over a lot. He holds it back though, not in Torchwood. And something I love about Russell that I didn't realize when I was 14, but realized very soon after is like his Doctor Who is just full of gay things. Like the 2 songs in this album are Tainted Love, which has a gay lead singer, and Toxic by Britney Spears.
Yeah.
I mean,
the fact that those two songs are in this, and all of the creature designs and all of the special effects, this had to have been one of the most expensive episodes of the season.
This is the most expensive episode in season 1. I looked that up this morning.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes total sense.
There were things that they cut even after the fact.
The 2 needle drops alone would be really expensive.
Yeah.
Because it's not like Britney Spears was a Doctor Who fan and is going to give them a discount.
Right.
I would be shocked if she's ever seen this episode or even that moment with her song in it.
There's so many little things too at the top that are just weird Doctor Who speak that I think are so clever.
Mm-hmm.
I love when they go 10,000 years in the future. It's exactly the year 12,005.
Yeah.
But I do think my favorite is it's the year 5/Apple/6.
Yeah.
And then when everyone's boarding, it's like the use of teleportation and religion is strictly prohibited. Like so many little sci-fi Russell things just dropped in there. But this also, back to, I'm ranting a lot. This was the episode, because I saw Tenet first in one episode, where I knew I was on board with Eccleston and the show in general. And it's his speech before the credits about you just assume you're going to die in some kind of horrible apocalypse, but maybe somehow humans survive. Like, I love that speech so much.
Yeah.
And it's very Russell T too.
Yeah. Very optimistic.
That's the thing is Russell was really good at dividing the 2 sides of his personality, because he could be very optimistic, and he siphoned all of that into Doctor Who and Sarah Jane Adventures. And then all of his nihilism and cynicism he just shoved into Torchwood, which I think is why most people aren't as into that show, is because it's hard to watch. I mean, it's hard. You can't binge Torchwood. It's difficult.
Nope. Makes me too upset.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But I like that he was capable of doing that. I think that's really cool.
Well, and I do think something cool about this episode too is this is one of the more grown up episodes of season 1. But I also love that but it breaks a bunch of like Doctor Who sci-fi assumptions. I mean, the very first thing in the episode is Rose is like, okay, the world's going to end and you're going to stop it. And he's like, no, we're going to watch it. I mean, the fact that that's the second episode plot is I'm not going to interfere. I'm going to let the Earth die, I think is really brave and awesome in a way.
Well, not just that, but that on a macro scale, but then on a micro scale, letting Cassandra die.
Oh my God. Well, I was waiting for that. Yeah. This is Murder Doctor, and I kind of love it. Yeah. He's downright ferocious in the end of this episode.
He's full on Batman. Yeah, I mean, Batman and Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought of. I think I wrote that. Yeah, I did write that down in my notes. That he just killed Ra's al Cassandra.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, I think everything has its time and everything dies is one of the iconic Eccleston lines.
Yeah.
And he delivers it so well. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I want to talk about the psychic paper, because that's a Russell T Davies creation, and I love it. It's perfect, and the reason he created it was like the Doctor gets captured a lot, and I don't want to do that in the new version of the show. So we're going to make one easy out, and we're going to use it all the time and just accept it, because you don't want to see them getting put into prisons over and over again. Anyway,
it fits so. I mean, there's a reason that it's stuck around, is it so seamlessly fits in with all of the other little proppy things that have become iconic.
I assumed for years that it was a thing from old Who.
Yeah.
It slides right in.
It's so analog.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I also, I think one of my favorite smaller moments is the moment when Rose gets off of the TARDIS and is in that room, and the Doctor goes over to the console, raises the window, and the expression on her face. Other companions, when the Doctor shows off something like really crazy and just be like, welcome to my world, the welcome to my world moment, essentially, is what this is. Every other companion after this is always very excited and just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Rose is completely overwhelmed.
Yes.
Where she's just like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
I mean, that's her journey this episode, is just like screaming. I mean, I love the choice of going back to Tainted Love, because the first lyrics are, I want to get away, I've got to run away.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it is, the Tainted Love is a perfect thing, because even just the title of just like, oh, I thought I had a thing for this guy and now I'm not sure. I went on this adventure and this is not what I was expecting. And I just, man, this episode is so good.
Right?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I love her conversation with the maintenance alien,
Mark Ruffalo.
The plumber.
Yeah.
The plumber.
Because it's such a quiet moment, but it's also really important to her overarching, character journey, as well as like this episode, because we established so much about like, it's just world building, but it's also like character building, and it's really cool.
It's got that amazing speech by Rose where she's like, I just got in his ship, I don't know anything about him. Why did I do this? It's her I've made a terrible mistake moment. And that scene is a reshoot because the episode was too short. That was an added scene.
Oh man, I'm glad it exists.
And
it's so good. It's the reason, I mean, I talk about this a lot, and it's the difference between season 1 Rose and season 2 Rose. I love season 1 Rose with every fiber of my being, and I think season 2 Rose may be my least favorite companion of New Who. I really don't like season 2 Rose at all. I think she's a bad person.
I like season 2 Rose. I do, though. I will never forgive Billie Piper for coming back in season 4 and not having her like lower class British accent that she put on for season 1 and 2. Like, I will never forgive her. I love Billie Piper, but if I ever meet her, I'll be like, why? Go redub those lines.
Yeah, she's had 3 distinctively different accents on Penny Dreadful too.
Awesome!
And she's playing the same character. It's weird.
To say nothing, her performance is bad. Wolf and Day of the Doctor.
Oh, that's true.
That's right. That is yet another accent in Doctor Who, huh?
Oh, and sorry, I'm peeking through my notes because I wrote it in order. So the steward, who I love, just because he's just
I always forget that he dies in this episode because I always think he's the same guy that's in New Earth, and he's not.
No,
he is, but he's not the same character, right?
Well, so this actor, what's his name? Simon Paisley Day. He is in Face the Raven. He's the werewolf-looking guy.
Oh.
And random tidbit, when I was in London like 4 years ago, I saw him as Petruchio in Taming of the Shrew at the Globe. And he was, right? That's where I work. And he was
times are hard for that guy, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
he's
awesome.
just really good. And so I always think of that. I remember I was at the Globe and I looked him up later. And I was like, he's that blue guy? What? Love him. So I just call him Petruchio a lot.
What was the deal? I mean, we're going to get to this, I'm assuming, next week. But what's the deal? Why is this the same character but not the same character in New Earth if he dies here?
It's like the same archetype. Like, he's a very similar...
He's like a clone or something?
No, it's not ever implied in the show. It's just like he's very... It's written to be a similar-ish character. Oh. Right? Am I remembering that right? I might be crazy.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll find out next week, I guess.
Yeah.
But I just Rose adapting to time travel and the Doctor adapting to having a companion again it's just so amazing. Like I just love this story so much because of what Russell T, because I mean, that's something that you never really deal with in Classic Who. The companion just shows up and they're just on the boat until they're off. And you never really deal with what that's like. You get little hints of it, like when Sarah Jane is forced to stay behind. That's a really sad, dramatic moment. But for the most part, it's very minor stuff. It's not dealt with the nuance that is dealt with here. Yeah. And I just love that this is Russell T Davies saying, this is what the show is going to be now. This is what my vision of the show was. Rose was homework. This is what the show is.
Yes.
And I love that.
I love Eccleston's Doctor so much. I love that he does the whole greeting thing. He meets all the aliens, gets all their gifts, gets that really hot scene where he breathes on Jade. And he's so unsympathetic to Rose losing her mind, like just freaking out in that scene. He's like, grow up, deal with it. And that's not something I think we would see again until Capaldi. And I love it. I see a lot of Capaldi's Doctor in Eccleston. And I like it a lot.
Definitely. Well, definitely. And that makes sense because they're the two doctors that have the most like direct correlation to Gallifrey.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
I think Peter, I'm going to wait until season 11 is over to like solidify my decision, but I think Peter Capaldi might be my favorite Doctor.
I mean, he's so good.
I'm getting to that point. This is also the first episode with Captain Jack Harkness. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, spoiler alert, face of both in this episode.
I think it's hilarious that there's literally a moment where he walks right past the face of Bo. And like, I think it's just so funny that they share like no dialogue. They don't even refer to the other one, but like,
yeah,
it's just kind of like, imagine a scene with like, I don't know, like Mr. Fantastic walking right past like Doctor Strange, you know?
Right.
I don't. What do you guys think about that? Because I don't know that. I mean, it was like I remember it being a really fun reveal in the season 3 finale at the time. But it's the sort of reveal where it's just like, yeah, that's fun. Okay, don't think about it too hard. Because it doesn't.
I like it because the Doctor, it doesn't ruin anything in the past because that's the moment the Doctor finds out Jack's the face of Bo, so it doesn't ruin any of his other interactions. But because they did that reveal at the end of season 3, they planned it in Gridlock, and it makes the face of Bo's death in Gridlock just like very bittersweet in hindsight and very beautiful. So I've always really liked it. I also just love adding jokes after the fact, like when Ruffalo, the plumber, is like, the face of Bo's out of hot water and he needs it for his bath or whatever. It's like, shut up, Jack. Like, no, you don't. You're a face.
It lives in a tank. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually what happens to people if they're alive for that long.
Right.
I mean, is that what it is? Is that you just turn into a giant head?
Your face absorbs the rest of your body.
Well, isn't that the joke in Futurama? Like, don't they have that museum of like heads that are just?
Yeah, but they're all decapitated.
Yeah, they're all decapitated. They haven't like turned into heads.
Oh, okay.
And they're not giant either.
Yeah,
they don't turn into like the Legends of the Hidden Temple guy.
Yeah.
It takes your favorite feature and just expands it, and Jack's just so self-obsessed that
he's kind of like the yin to Cassandra's yang.
True.
Not you, Cassandra, but like the
Cassandra.
No, I'm yeah.
Okay. I love
she's been mentally preparing herself for this for like 2 weeks now.
It's true. I'm not gonna
lie. Cassandra's great, and I love that we get we're getting her 2 episodes back to back because of how we do our schedule. But I think she has a really interesting arc. It's really interesting that she sort of dies twice.
Like Buffy.
But yeah.
I just love her. I love her dialogue. I love, oh God, what's her name? The actress what's his name's daughter? Madam Hooch. You know who I mean. Yeah. She's just so good at this.
She said Jacques Hughes,
but I also love, I was listening to your
line of mine.
Which one?
She says Jacques Hughes, which anytime that shows up in fiction.
Well, they also get, like, you guys were talking about how Rose is so, like, dumbed down and like the aliens of London. very much like overexerting that this is a kid show. And then we jump into this episode where Rose calls her a bitchy trampoline.
Yeah.
Which is my favorite joke in this episode. I'll end up like you, Cassandra, a bitchy trampoline. Like, that's amazing.
It's fantastic. And it's funny because it's I mean, they're making fun of this thing that was created for this episode. Like, it's almost like Russell T Davies is poking fun at himself a little bit for creating this ridiculous thing. Which, by the way, one thing that I noticed when they're introducing all of the aliens, I was just looking at these aliens and I'm like, I don't hate the Moffat era as much as other people do, but I will say this: these look like Doctor Who aliens.
Mm-hmm.
The Moffat era is filled. The production value is so high that they can create anything, and so the aliens don't feel like Doctor Who aliens as much as these do to me.
Because it's like, guys with a big, plaster head walking around in long drapey robes. And like we've had like 40 years of that. Whereas Moffat Who is more, they have the technology, so they're going to use it.
Yeah, I mean, like, imagine like the Fisher King walking out and hanging out with these guys.
Screaming with his Slipknot voice.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But like, how about this might be the last time in recorded history where meme was used before the internet co-opted it, the word meme. Like the appearance of the repeated meme, where meme is just like a repetitive idea before the internet's made it a thing. I chuckle at it every time.
It was just a word that Richard Dawkins invented.
Right?
It's amazing. Billy, since you brought him up, I lost my train of thought and I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about him. But what are your thoughts on bringing on the idea that Captain Jack may be returning for this year's Christmas special?
I think it's necessary. I have been waiting for it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see him with Matt, but I think him and Capaldi will be great. I think we've already passed my dream episode, which would be Captain Jack and River Song. Just because the Doctor would have zero control and be so out of his depth in that episode.
Right.
I think it would be so much fun. But I have been wanting Jack, because I feel like Jack should be this character that transcends showrunners, and it's been upsetting that he hasn't been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially since because of Torchwood, you can make him, we know he ages because he turns into the face of Bo. So as actor, oh my God, John Barrowman gets older.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can just be like, oh, it's been 2,000 years, which is why he looks 5 years older,
Right.
So, I mean, just keep him around forever because John Barrowman is great.
Well, and we've talked about this a lot before. It makes even less sense because he's technically a Moffat creation.
Right. Moffat, he's in Moffat's episode in Are You My Mummy? Which just like, why aren't you using him?
Yeah.
Because there's no way that John Barrowman, I mean, he did the Five Doctors 50th anniversary YouTube thing. Like, there's no way he's going to say no.
No. Well, the thing is, I mean, that's the rumor, is that he's already filmed it, that it already happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because he was in Cardiff. He was spotted in Cardiff and tweeted or Instagrammed about being in Cardiff at the same time that the Christmas special was in production.
Yeah. You don't just go to Cardiff.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I did, but I was there for 2 days. And it was, I was there the day after, or the opening day of the Doctor Who experience, which was an accident because it just moved from London. And Michael and I went and got in line, and they asked, like, who's came the farthest to be here? And we were like third, and we said, America? And we found out we were the only Americans at the exhibit.
That's awesome.
And I had at 3 times, like, people who worked there come up to me and Michael concerned, like, you didn't fly to Cardiff just to be here on opening day, right? We're like, no, we were here anyway. It was just an accident. But they were concerned we were like super fans, which I guess I am. But
theory: what if John Barrowman is in this Christmas special, but he is playing Malcolm Merlin?
Oh, what a crossover.
I don't think anyone would want to see that. I don't know. Or twist, reveal, Malcolm Merlin is Captain Jack. And It was the entire time.
I think you could make an argument that everything John Barrowman's ever in is just a bored Captain Jack pretending to be someone else.
Producers.
Yeah. It would be really interesting to do what if, I mean, this would be really sad, but what if Moffat is writing like the last Captain Jack story and
he would do that because he thinks never mind. It gotta be mean.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But
yeah. I could see him doing a story that involves Captain Jack like transitioning into the face of Bo somehow.
We got
He just magically becomes telepathic.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Being voiced by John. They have to bring that other guy back.
Yeah.
Hello, old friend.
Oh man.
Oh, sorry, I've been googling John Barrowman Cardiff. Sorry, but going back to this episode,
Yes.
there's a bunch of other little things that make this show a little bit more grown up, especially with Rose. Like when she talks about, first of all, I love her reaction to the TARDIS being in her brain and making it translate. I love that upsets her. I love that so much.
And I love the Doctor's reaction to it of just being like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Like I didn't realize that would be an issue because it's not for him and he just doesn't." Again, that goes back to him not being used to companions anymore.
Right.
And part of it probably has a lot to do with he didn't explain it very well. Like it sounded, the way that he described it was way more evasive than it probably is.
And and this kind of comes with context that I have now that I didn't have back in 2005. But Rose is very unlike any other companion that he's had. Like she's it's funny that so many people kind of criticize her for the opposite of this, but I actually think she's far and away the most emotionally mature companion that he's had. And I can't really see like Astrid or like Perry like taking umbrage with like a weird thing, being like, "Oh, okay, Doctor, you're fine, love you," And and so it is kind of like, whoa, I actually have to like talk to you like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love it so much. What else happens? Oh, this is when she mentions her friend Shireen. My mate Shireen. I want to meet Shireen. She's mentioned like 3 times in season 1 and we never see her. But she's Rose's drunk friend is how I described her.
Oh, speaking of that though, the scene where she's talking to Jackie on the phone
and I wrote that down.
And her just wrapping her brain around how traveling with the Doctor works, where she can simultaneously watch the end of the world while speaking to her mother alive and well 15,000 years in the past, Yeah.
Well, that's also the scene going to like the grown up stuff. Jackie Tyler asks her if she's hungover, which I love. And then it has, I think Jackie Tyler is an icon. Like I love Jackie Tyler so much.
Oh yeah.
And she what's the one where she's like, "Mom, what day is it?" "Wednesday, all day. You got a hangover." Like I love Jackie Tyler.
Yeah.
She's so great.
The idea of like, and not to speak too ill of the Moffat era, but the idea of the show having a woman over the age of 30 is kind of almost like a novel concept now,
right?
A working class, blue collar, non-sexualized female character. Can't remember last time that.
I think my biggest regret is that Jackie never really took any extended trips in the TARDIS.
I would have loved that so much.
It would have been great because she did like a couple of times, like in obviously at the end of season 4, and then of course wasn't she involved in the Cybermen 2-parter in season 2?
That everyone got to fly the TARDIS.
That was in season 4.
Yeah, season 4. She's also in Doomsday quite a bit. And
is she does she ride in the TARDIS in that though?
Yeah, and it's why she's an official companion, because she's still inside the TARDIS when they leave her apartment and go to Canary Wharf.
Oh, okay.
And the Doctor forgets she's in the TARDIS. Rose is like, "Did you forget about my mom?" And she's sitting up there with like her thermos of tea.
Yeah,
like, it's great. I love that moment. I love Jackie. I love everything about Jackie Tyler. I want her to come back.
I wish the Doctor.
Jackie's
ridiculous, but
they tried to recreate a Jackie with Martha's family, and it just didn't play as well. I feel like they would have been better off focusing on Martha's father because it would have been a different dynamic. Because just trying to recreate Jackie just didn't work. But then it did work with Donna's mom.
Yeah, but Donna's mom is like such an interesting character to me.
Yes.
I love her, but I also respect people who hate her. Like, it's
and of course there's
weird.
Gramps, who's, like great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah.
What else did I write down? Oh, I wrote a little bit of jiggery pokery. Oh, you good at that jiggery pokery? Yeah, I came first. What about you? No, failed hullabaloo. That exchange is my favorite.
I love the fan room.
I love the fan room. I love the death of the steward because I think the lowering the sun filter is horrific.
It is. And it's very horrific, but also very simple.
Yes.
In a way that I respect a lot. Those are my favorite kinds of things, where it's the kind of idea where you're just like, how have I never seen this before?
Right.
So good.
Oh, the fans are great. I wrote something really inappropriate, but in summary, it was basically Dr. X Jabe should have happened. I feel like Jabe's the one that got away, but burned to death. But I love their obviously flirty dynamic because I don't think it's something classic Who would have done, which is like, here's a random beautiful alien that he met and they're adventuring together and he's just openly flirting with her.
Yeah, it's almost,
and I love it.
It's almost kind of Captain Kirky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing too is about, especially about season 1, is all of the shortcomings of the show's budget and sometimes directing are made up with just like all of the phenomenal actors they get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rose and the Doctor are amazing. Especially, I mean, her reaction you talked about earlier to the planet, and we'll get to in a bit, but the Doctor's like Gallifrey crying scene is amazing. But like these supporting characters are exceptional. The actress who plays Jabe is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I want her in more
Or
things.
the actress that plays Raffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's only in that scene to die and make us sad, and she's so good.
She's excellent. Yeah, I mean,
The little
and
blue thing that
it's
explodes.
yeah.
Yeah.
They take.
God, I love after the when the I don't know what you would call that room that they're all in to watch the Earth dive.
The viewing deck.
Yeah, the viewing deck. When the sun starts spilling into the viewing deck and everyone is dying in the room, and the Doctor stops it and goes back up there, and everyone's dead except for like Bo and like
The two other trees. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just got people just like wiping him down, like cleaning him up.
Yeah, the Mox of Valhoon, I always forget he dies, the little blue guy, like burns to death in this episode. I always forget that happens.
Yeah, I just love that the face of Bo just does not look bothered at all.
He knew about it. He'd read the Doctor. He's there because he read the journal.
Whatever.
He's read River's journal.
Doesn't even need to say hi. I see him in there. I see he's an old. I'm 8 million years old.
God, what else? Oh, the Cassandra's character development. I was a little boy on that planet, and we lived in a house built into the side of the Los Angeles crevasse.
Oh yeah, it was like my father was a Texan.
I love that that's exotic for British. I'm like, where in Texas? I need to know.
I just love that she doesn't know anything.
Oh yeah,
like
she thinks the jukebox is an iPod.
Right.
Yeah.
Like not only is she not human for all the reasons that Rose calls her out for not being human, but she's also just doesn't understand humans. So she's obviously not that human.
Mm-hmm.
I did write down that Rose cheated when she's like, "I'm the last human, not you." I'm like, "No, you had a time machine. You're cheating, Rose.
Yeah,
you don't win that argument with that one unless you would explain you have a time machine to Cassandra."
I was like, I mean, if you want to get real technical, I mean.
God, what else? The whole thing mingled the proto-humans and new humans and even human-ish. She calls them mongrels, which I think is great. It's like later when the Mox of Alhoon calls the repeating meme infidels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I chuckle every time he says that. I just turned the page and I forgot that last night I wrote an entire page of my little notebook that just says "Toxic" by Britney Spears.
Yeah, kind of
because
kind of weird that we're reviewing this a couple of days after her MTV movie.
Yeah.
She's just returned, and Toxic was her last hit before she lost her mind and fell into that deep dark hole that pop musicians go and has now dug herself out of. Like that's how much time has passed since this episode.
I love that moment. I love the Doctor running around. We do have to talk about, because I'm just reading all my things, the Jabe Eccleston Gallifrey reveal.
Yes.
Where he just stares straight ahead the whole time. I love that scene so much.
And when he's explaining it to Rose in the chip scene.
Yes, which is the reason this episode goes from great to exceptional, is that scene on the streets of wherever they are.
Yeah.
Cardiff.
This was the episode that sold me on the new series.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked Rose fine, but it has like a lot of cheesy stuff in it,
Pizza thing.
Yeah, pizza. Like that whole thing is really, really cheesy and lame.
I think it's because I was 14. Like, I watch Rose with so much love. Like, all the cheesy stuff I have a fondness for. Like, I can separate myself from it and be like, this is garbage. But when the trash can burps, I smile every time. Like, this is great.
I can definitely have that fondness for it as well. But I also, at the time, watching it the first time, I was like, I don't know.
I do think that Mickey, the pizza scene, the cork going out of his mouth, and then his hand turning into a hammer, him standing up and smashing the table headless, is one of the most unintentionally hilarious sequences ever put on television.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
It's kind of like,
I open mouth laugh at that every time.
I guess it's because we know how better it gets. We're allowed to enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what I hope happens like after this third Thor movie comes out. Like, we'll kind of be able to like chill out about the last two and be like, oh, they're really fine, you know?
Yeah, right.
The Thor movies are my favorite Marvel movies.
Yeah,
Me too.
Cassandra's too.
Me too.
I'm a weirdo about it.
I really liked the first one a lot.
I just like Thor. I like him so much.
I really like parts of the Dark World.
Yeah, I mean, Dark World's rough, but I love Thor and his team in it so much that I can ignore it.
And I think that's a really fun third act.
Yeah. It does have a really fun third act, yes.
Speaking of Christopher
What
Eccleston.
else? Right? What else happened?
Right. That's funny.
We get the Time Lord name drop when Jabe holds the fan forms. She's like, he's Jabe, you're made of wood. So don't waste time, Time Lord. Like, that line is so cheesy, but it works so well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote Jabe deserved better.
She did.
She does.
She's such a great character.
She literally held down a switch until she burned alive. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of horrific deaths in this.
Well, yeah, Eccleston or Davies does that thing in season 4 where Davros calls him out on, like, you make an army of people willing to die for you. Mm-hmm. And they do that sequence of all these people who've died. And for some reason, when I rewatch that, when it cuts to Jabe, that one hurts the most. Like, I'm just like, oh, she was the first you got to do this stuff, this crap for.
Well, no, the first one, Billy.
Is what's his name getting shot to death in front of his family?
No, it's Pex.
Pex.
Oh, Billy, you have to watch the Paradise Towers, the episode.
It's it's a classic Who episode, and there's a character named, his name is Pex, and he's a scrawny guy who
he's great at kicking, he's great at punching, and he knows all the kung fu.
Yeah,
actual dialogue.
That's an actual line of dialogue. Yeah,
who's the doctor in this?
Sylvester McCoy.
That's Sylvester McCoy.
Perfect. Oh god, it makes it worse.
Get a 6-pack of beer or some wine and watch Paradise Towers.
He is introduced by punching his way through somebody's apartment door,
destroying a door.
Awesome.
Yeah, he just destroys a door and comes through it, and everyone's like, "God, Pex, why this again?" And he's like, "None of you need any help."
No, we never need your help.
We never.
Okay.
It's amazing.
So I guess with the end of this episode, we get into the dark stuff that I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I will Eccleston passing through the third fan. that's going at high speed.
Yes.
Is written so well. Like they play, what was the joke? I think Russell made the joke that the female voice singing in the Doctor's theme was the last president of Gallifrey, whatever her name was. There's a joke that the last president of Gallifrey before the Time War that we saw was a woman. I can't remember her name.
Romana?
Yeah, not Romana, but in some, I don't know, in one of the books or last episodes, and so they had a joke going in production for season 1 that the female voice singing on Dead Gallifrey is whoever that president was, which I always thought was funny. But I just feel like a lesser writer would have explained his powers. I've been like, he can travel in time, get it? He's got this thing. And they do it all just through cinematography and music and great Eccleston acting. And I love the fan moment so much.
His Last Crusade moment.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
To take a leap of faith, boy.
That one. And then we get him coming back and we get that horrible moment where he looks at Jabe and she's just a pile of ash.
There's this great wide shot of the Doctor going through the fans, and just in the background you can just see Jabe like
there's like a pyre. It's horrible.
Fully on fire.
Yeah.
And then we get our first ever real angry Doctor of New Who, where he just like destroys that whole room. He like rips the like repeated meme. He gets Cassandra back. He finds the teleporter thing. The moisturize me. The death is horrific.
You know, thinking about it now, of the new Doctors, 12 is kind of the least vengeful.
Yes, I think so too.
Because he's just generally grumpy.
Yeah.
So his version of vengeful is actually happy-go-lucky, because he is not that very often, and so when he is, it's surprising. Whereas all of these other Doctors are the reverse of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there really is no equivalent of like, you know, the 10th Doctor murdering that Spider Woman. You know.
Right.
Donna's shining intro.
I mean, there's literally a 2-parter where he's just coming up with every reason not to kill Davros.
Yeah. What does she say? I'm too young. Blood everywhere.
Yeah.
I think we do need to talk at one point that Russell's go-to killing his villains is just to have them explode in some way. Like everything he ever kills explodes, and I'm secretly fine with it. And I love the shot. I've said love a lot. I really like this episode, guys. I'm being a huge nerd.
It's fine.
The end when Rose is standing at the viewing deck looking at the chunks of Earth flying by an expanded sun, and she has the line, "We were so busy trying to save ourselves, no one saw it go."
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I think Billie Piper as an actress really just proves that she's there not to be messed with. Because she's really reluctant to leave, and as the Doctor takes her hand and like walks her towards the TARDIS, she stops to look back at the Earth again, and I love that little turn back so much.
I think this episode is the episode that proved to the naysayers that she's more than just a pop star, that she is a legitimate actress.
I mean, I love now, like in 2016, the idea of Billie Piper being a pop star is just hilarious.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, she's such a good actress, and her music videos, if you go back and watch them, are kind of terrible.
She's kind of the Brie Larson of the UK.
Yeah.
True.
And then that fantastic scene in Cardiff on the street, which those aren't extras, just no one knew the show was being made. That is shot with a telephoto lens. They're just really standing there in that crowd.
Oh, that's so good.
They just put body mics on Chris and Billy and then just filmed them from a distance with a telephoto lens, which is why it looks so real, because it is.
Nice.
That's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah. And just
gives it a really distinctive look.
Really funny if there were just two guys that were like, is that 28 Days Later guy?
I think if I had to pick one image to sort of sum up series 1 of Doctor Who, it would be that image of them standing outside of the TARDIS in the crowd of Cardiff.
Yeah, and even the dialogue does that too, when he's like, "It's one day it's gone, even the sky," and he tells her about Gallifrey, and he's got that amazing line that's just, "There was a war and we lost." It's the first time we hear the phrase "last of the Time Lords," and then Rose breaks the tension with, "Do you smell chips?"
Yeah,
I
so good.
Love this episode.
Yeah.
She says, all right, you're buying, no money, which is a little bit reflective of season 8's Capaldi when he goes to get coffee and like leaves Clara on the street. And I don't know.
Or there's that, I really love that line in Blink where Martha is like, I have to go get a job. I have to help support him. You won't get a job.
I do love that.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps up our discussion of End of the World. Billy, thanks so much for being on, and hopefully we'll have you on again.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on for some Classic Who.
Yeah.
I would love to watch Classic Who. I'm also super down to fight Scott over Satan Pit.
That's a long time coming.
I know that's a ways off, but I will fight you. That episode is a jam.
Well, if you have your own opinions on the Satan Pit, go to duelinggenre.com. We love hearing from you guys. We don't hear nearly enough from our Doctor Who's Companion listeners. We know you're out there. Contact.
We just got a new really great review.
We did get a new really great review. It was nice. Yeah. It was really cool. Thank you for that. And you can email us your own opinions and thoughts on Doctor Who at contact@thedoctorscompanion.us. You can tweet us at TDCpod or follow us. We usually retweet and share like any cool Doctor Who stuff that we come across on the internet. Tumble at us at thedoctorscompanionpodcast.tumblr.com. And like us on Facebook, leave us more great reviews on iTunes, and you can check out our other podcasts like Back to the Future Minute, where Scott and I review the Back to the Future trilogy 1 minute at a time. And we're about to be taking a break on that, so you have plenty of time to catch up with parts 1 and 2. Geek by Night, which all 4 of us work on.
Yeah.
We're so proud of it, and we hope you guys are listening to it. If you like Doctor Who, you'll love Geek by Night. I guarantee it. And you can go help us out any way you can at duelinggenre.com/support or click on our donation button. And hey, if you don't have money to spare, I know times are hard, you can always just spread the word. That doesn't cost a nickel, and it really helps us out. And and don't forget, coming soon to the Dueling Genre family, Lord of the Rings Minute, hosted by our very own Cassandra Fredrickson.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And as always,
all of your reviews. All of the reviews for this episode are just going to be Billy talks too much. Tell him to go away.
Oh no!
Special.
I ranted.
I have a feeling we'll have at least 3 people tell us you should become a permanent member of the show.
No, don't do that. That would just maybe make my doctor. Let's kill Nick. Let's kill Nick.
And as always, special. Speaking of killing it, special thanks to our Patreon associate producer. As always, I hope she's listening. She probably isn't, but I hope she is. Leaper182. And we will see you next time when we review the 10th Doctor's second adventure. I know you've seen the GIFs for it, but now see the episode behind the GIFs with New Earth.